Hello and welcome to the first lecture of Stats 243. This covers Chapter 1 and it is named The Language of Statistics because there are a lot of vocab words and especially words that are just for stats that we're going to go over. Right. So first of all, the basic idea in statistics is that we're trying to use data to come to some conclusion or decision. About how to proceed, to answer some question using data. Is probably one of the most significant things, applied mathematics in the last 100 years. So let's go over some things. When we're talking about a population in statistics, we're talking about everyone in that population. We're talking about the total set of observations that could possibly be made. So if my population is 9th grade girls, then it's every possible 9th grade girl in the world. If my population is 9th grade girls in America, then again, it's 9th grade girls in America. Maybe my population is 9th grade girls in a particular high school or in a particular state. Now, obviously, it's not always possible to survey every possible 9th grade girl around. So then we take a sample. And this is a set of observations drawn from a particular population. So a sample. Right? When we're talking about anything to do with the population, we use Greek letters usually as their symbols. When we're talking about anything to do with actual sample data, we usually use Roman letters from the Roman alphabet. So a parameter is the number calculated from an entire population. We use the Greek letter mu for the population mean. Right? The average weight of all the dogs that go to Joe's doggy daycare. Right? That would be an example of mu. Our population is all dogs that go to Joe's doggy daycare. A statistic is a number, so you have a parameter and a statistic. A statistic is a number that's calculated only from the sample or subset of the population. So for the mean, we often say X bar. That would be the mean or the average, the simple average of our sample. Right? The average weight for only the dogs that go to Joe's doggy daycare on Mondays. So if we took what we would call a cluster sample of Monday's dogs, then this would be X bar, would be our option for that. So that would be our sample for Monday's dog. That's our sample. Right. So we have different types of data that you're going to be quizzed on. Is this, is this, that kind of thing. Qualitative. These are usually qualities. That's where the qualitative comes from. Qualities. Their descriptions of blue eyes, brown hair, somewhat likes, somewhat agrees, Republican, Democrat, these are all different types of qualities. This would be considered qualitative data. Quantitative, to mean quantify, is numerical measurements. So again, we talked about the qualities, examples, the color of a ball or the breed of a horse, quarter horse, draft horse, Paso Fino, etc., etc. Tennessee Walker, Friesian. These would all be qualitative data. Right? Quantitative is numerical measurements. Examples is population of city, the weight of a person, the time it takes to run a mile, perhaps the height of a horse, those types of things. Within qualitative data and quantitative data, we have some groupings. So nominal means that there's no order. Blue eyes are not inherently better than brown eyes or vice versa. So there's no particular set order. Sometimes you'll see things in alphabetical order, but that is actually just as random as, going from Z to A or A to Z, right? Right. Ordinal qualitative data does have some inherent order, but it's not a standard measurement. That means the distance from one unit to the next unit might be different than this unit. Like there's no standard measurement. Like first, second, and third place, but that doesn't tell you that they all had equal time in between. Maybe first and second were just a few seconds apart, but second and third were full minutes apart. So it's not as got a standard difference. In this quantitative data types, we have two different ones here. This is interval, which is a variable with equal measurements between the scale units, like temperature, and ratio, which also has equal intervals, but it also has a minimum scale value of 0, right? A minimum scale value of 0. So it has to have a true 0. 0 has to mean something in a ratio, right? The next thing we have that we can break these this quantitative data into discrete and continuous. So, and this is more about perhaps how you measure than anything inherent. But take, for example, number of kids in a family, right? So you can't have half a child or a third of a child or a quarter of a child. So that has jumps. You could have 0 kids, 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, but it jumps, so it's discrete. Right? There's no anything that might have a jump in it that doesn't continuously go on forever is discrete. Continuous is like gallons of gas that you can put in a car. You can put 2.37 gallons of gas in a car. You can put 2.11 gallons of gas in the car. You can go all the way up to a particular number, from 0 to that number, and it's continuous. Every number between 0 and this number is a possibility. So that's a continuous function. Right? Discrete, again, variables that can only take on particular values, versus a number of children, the number of aces in a poker hand. Continuous is a variable that can take on any value between the minimum and maximum value. Again, baby's age, weight, months, that kind of thing. Right? Now we're going to talk about how you set up a study. So when I want to study something, I have 2 options for that study. It can be an observational study. That's where I sit on the corner and I can just observe how fast cars are going, and I can observe the color of that car. And then I might be able to make some inferences on people who drive red cars drive faster. People who drive brown cars drive slower. I can make some inferences based on the observations that I have made sitting on a corner looking at cars and how fast they drive. Versus an experiment. An experiment is perhaps controlling some of that variables. So maybe I randomly assign color of cars to different people, and those people then drive around and we test to see if people with different color cars end up driving faster or not faster. We also would have a control group in this case. And in an experiment, you also have a control group, or maybe there's some sort of placenta effect going on in general. So, all right, so that's kind of observational, just watching. Experimental, you're trying to control one or more of the variables. All right, so a survey is considered an observation. And again, most studies that are medical studies will have, a control group, and then a treatment group. All right, so there are 5 different ways to sample that you need to be aware of. The first one is just simple random sampling. I should back up. The first one on this list is convenience sampling, and that's where you just take the most convenient thing. So you just grab a handful of marbles. Top of the jar, the first one. The problem with convenience sampling is when you do convenience sampling, maybe the jar wasn't very well mixed, and so you got an unusual amount of one color at the top versus the bottom. So not every marble in the jar has an equal shot of being selected if you do a convenience sample. That a simple random sample, usually that you would do this by just lining out the marbles, all of them, and then you use some sort of random number generator. And if you wanted 20 marbles, you would take 20 different numbers, count those out, and take them. Right? This one, everyone has an equal chance of being selected, and that is the kind of gold standard of sampling. Systematic sampling, you would randomly pick a number, line them up, randomly pick a number, and then you do every 3 after that until you get the number of marbles that you would want. This also is good because everyone still has an equal chance of selection because you are picking a random starting point. This would not be good if you were picking, always using the first marble as your starting point. Then this would be bad because 2 and 3 would never have a shot of being picked. A stratified sample. So a stratified sample says, well, there's natural strata, natural groups in there. And so if I want to sort the marbles by color, and then I would take a handful of each color, right? So I would then randomly sample, do a simple random selection from each of those color groups, each of those stratas. Usually you do a strata when you're you want the equal number of men as women in your sample, or equal number of rural versus urban in your sample. So you stratify, and then you do a simple random sample in each strata. And finally is a cluster sample, and those are where there are pre-made clusters already, classrooms in a school. I randomly select 4 classrooms, and those are the kids I sample. Apartment floors, I randomly select a floor in an apartment building, and those are the tenants I sample. So these are natural subgroups that are then randomly selected, and you take the entire group. All right, so there you have it. Hope you guys all had a wonderful lecture. Let me know if you have any questions.